Welcome back to the Guitar Learning Show. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Bob. All right.
Go ahead.
Today we want to talk to you about some low volume tube amp strategies. So how do you play at a level that's not going to make everybody in your house and even your neighbors hate you, but still use a tube amp?
Although I'm at a point where I don't mind if my neighbors hate me.
We do reach that point at some point, don't we? So there's a lot of ways that you can play at low volumes. You can use things like a digital practice amp, like a Spark or something like the Fender Tone Master series, which are digital amps that have built-in attenuators. You can use computer plugins. There's a lot of things you can do. But what if you want to use a tube amp? Tube amps notoriously are a little tough to play at lower volumes, but there's some ways that you can do it, right? We're going to look at two different strategies. We're going to look at a low volume or a low wattage tube amp like this Blackstar HT5, and we're also going to look at an amp like the Vox AC15, which has a master volume. So those will be two different ways, and we're going to kind of walk you through each way. One of the things that you have to do before you get started, though, because especially as we're starting out, we don't have a really good way of knowing when our playing is too loud. And we're always going to think it's too loud, or usually going to think it's too loud. So you need to get some data. You need like real empirical data that you can check against.
Absolutely.
So definitely recommend that as you start down this path, you get a decibel meter. It can be something like this one here, or it can even just be a free app on your phone. But you want something to measure, because the other piece of the puzzle is because you don't know how loud you are. And if you're like me, you hear all your mistakes at stadium volume anyway. You're going to want to get a comparison. You need something to check against. And we might not know that our guitars are too loud, but we always know when the TV is too loud. So I really recommend, putting in an action movie or something, having it at a volume you're comfortable at, and get about a few feet away with that decibel meter app and get a reading. And that's going to be kind of your baseline. And you might have different ones for different times, right? There might be early morning playing, maybe early morning you don't even plug in. What I would call kind of an after dinner playing, and then what I would also call like a Saturday afternoon playing, right? You can get away with being a little louder, but you still can't get away with being as loud as you want to be. So we're going to kind of look at those situations. For what we're doing today, our target is going to be around the mid 80s as far as decibels go, 85 or so. If we get much above 90, we're gonna be careful about that. But we're going to go through some different sounds. We're going to keep an eye on the decibel meter here, and we're going to start, like I said, with the Blackstar, the HT5. This is a 5-watt tube amp. It is a tube preamp and power section. It has a solid state overdrive, so kind of like a pedal built in, so it's not a tube overdrive. And it has both a 5-watt mode and a half-watt mode. We're going to kind of go through there. It's a 2-channel amp with a clean and an overdrive. So why don't you start? We'll start out on the clean tone sound, okay, and we'll try to get a good sound with keeping the decibel meter under about 85. And I can actually almost talk over the playing at that volume, is there's going to be a lot of variation, right? When you're picking single note stuff, you're going to see 72, 75, and if you hit a power chord, you're going to probably see 88 or so. But this is a very playable volume.
And I also think it's worth pointing out that these decibel meters are never at 0. So even in a reasonably quiet room, they're generally around 45-ish.
Yeah. I mean, for this, you don't need, scientific accurate decibel
No.
meters, right? Because you're going to be taking all the readings with the same thing. So you're really just looking in relation to each other. So whatever your decibel meter tells you your TV is when it's a comfortable volume, keep the amp at the same volume, you're going to be fine. Let's go over to the overdrive channel and try to get a little bit of overdrive there. Okay, so you see we were able to get some gain out of it and still keep it around the mid 80s. Now this
that was pretty good actually.
Yeah.
I was surprised it was in the mid 80s because it's sounded nice and crunchy.
Yep, absolutely. Now this amp does have a half watt mode. I'm going to be honest, it's not exactly inspiring. But it does a couple things. First off, it lets you not touch your controls and lower the volume of the amp. So when we're talking about those times when the kids are asleep or it's early in the morning, you're up before everybody else, you could continue without touching anything on your amp or your board, just put it in half watt mode.
That's kind of handy, especially if you're working on a specific song and you've got it dialed in just the way you like it and you don't want to change those settings.
Exactly. So why don't we're in overdrive now, and we're going to go, while you're playing, we're going to go to half watt, and you will definitely know when we go to half watt. You can see it went from 85 or so down to about 78.
It got really quiet, but it still maintained a pretty decent amount of gain.
Yeah, it did, and that's exactly the idea, right? Is you can go ahead and you can cut the volume significantly without changing any of the settings.
And this is a tube amp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So this also, and you'll see this in a lot of the lower wattage amps because they're meant for practice or for quieter situations. This also does have a cab emulated headphone out, so most tube amps don't have a headphone jack. You can actually plug headphones into the back of this and go from there.
That's very nice to have.
Yep. So that is definitely one option for looking at lower volumes. But what if you don't have the budget for a second kind of practice amp and you're looking for something that lets you go to either gig or even just go to a jam night, keep up with a drummer, but still keep the volume low for those times when you're at home? So for something like that, we're going to take a look at
Vox AC15.
We're going to get your AC15 out. It has a master volume, which lets you, we'll show you exactly how that works, but it will let you kind of tame the total output while still getting some good crunch. So we're going to set that up and we'll be right back.
And we're back.
Okay.
With the Vox AC15.
So absolutely classic sound. The Vox AC15 is definitely a giggable amp. I play it every week when we jam and we have a drummer in the room. It keeps up with no problem.
Yep.
But you can still use this in a home situation. And we're going to kind of walk through that. We're going to show you how the Vox AC15 is what they call a master volume amplifier, which means after everything, there's a volume control on the power amp section that allows you to bring the whole volume of the amp down without changing the gain. So if you don't have a master volume, your volume is also kind of your gain control. And if you bring the volume down, the amp will clean up, the sound will get a little, it won't be what you're looking for.
So we'll show you what we're talking about.
Yep. And we will be kind of showing you how we change the controls here. So we're going to start out, this is at not quite a gig volume, but definitely a little too loud for most homes.
That was pretty loud. What was that?
That was about 105.
Yeah.
So Don't ever believe that a 15-watt tube amp can't keep up with a drummer, because it definitely can. All right, I am going to, and I'll use my phone here to get some video. While you're playing, I'm going to adjust the master volume and bring the amp down to a playable level. And the tone might change a little bit, but it's not going to change as much as you think it would. Okay. Okay, we are back. And
Again,
we've made a slight change of plans. Rather than me standing there trying to use my phone to record, we've just set up a camera with a full view of the controls. And so you'll be able to see exactly how it works when we bring the master volume down. Okay.
okay.
So why don't you start playing, and then I'm going to bring the master volume down to more of a bedroom-friendly level.
Okay.
That was great. So I was actually able to get it down into the mid 70s when I had it down as low as it
Yeah, it
was.
sounded pretty quiet at that
It's very
point.
quiet. You can actually hear the strings in the room over the amp. That's how quiet it was. That is the normal channel of the AC-15. We're going to switch it over to the top boost channel, which is everybody's favorite channel, the more overdriven side, and do the same thing. Okay. And I'm also going to bring the master back up. Ah, yes, the non-boutique amplifier.
Yeah, the familiar.
Okay, so I've switched the inputs over. The Vox is a little unique in that if you want to go to the higher gain side of things, you have to actually unplug the guitar and plug it in again. I have the master volume back up to where we would have it again for more of a jam night or a gig night. And we'll start there, and then I'm going to bring it down again into a more reasonable
We
level.
definitely get more of the 60 cycle hum too, which is.
Oh yeah, well, anytime you're pushing the gain, you're going to get more hum, that's for sure.
So I switched to that humbucker and it's much quieter.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. Very good point. Okay, so that was about 103 decibels. We're going to start bringing it down a little while you're playing.
And that's where the decibel meter comes in handy.
Yeah.
Because you might think, once you, especially when you add some crunch to it
Mhm.
and you're playing some power chords or something, to me, that type of stuff sounds louder
Yeah.
than it usually is, just because it's more aggressive playing
Sure.
as opposed
Absolutely.
to just as opposed to just playing some scale or some notes or something.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Now, what I noticed with the Vox, especially on the top boost channel, not as much on the normal channel, is when we brought the volume down, it did lose something. I mean, it's not like a, just overall quieter. It felt like some of the top end sparkle, that Vox sparkle kind of faded a little bit. So it's not going to sound exactly the same, but it does give you, again, that opportunity to keep the rest of your settings the same, have the sound you like, and then just bring the volume down for those times when you have to be a little bit quieter.
Yeah, and especially if for whatever reason you have one amp.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, this is a great amp to have as a single amp.
Yeah, it's a fantastic amp because it can do the quieter stuff. It can it can keep up with a drummer without a problem.
Yep.
And it's just, it's a Vox. It's cool, right?
Yeah, 15 watts.
It's
I don't
more than
know.
enough.
Yeah.
More than enough for anything that you might need. So it's definitely an option.
Oh, and the other thing is, if you could like and subscribe, that would really help us out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you learned anything, or if you have any tips, especially if you have any tips that you've discovered as you try to learn to kind of keep
Yeah,
a
to work
peaceful
with these
home,
amps. Yeah.
we would love to hear from you in the comments and let us know what you liked, what you do differently, what you'd like to see, because all of that helps us with the channel and with having new content to be able to bring.
All right.
Okay. Well, we hope that was helpful. I think that's about it for today.
Yep. We look forward to seeing you the next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.